recording, and I'm sure we'll have a few more. Hey, Kathleen, a few more that join us as well. But Claire, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. It looks like we're ready to go. So,
well, this is wonderful. I don't know how we can check on page 2, Teresa, so we can see everyone that's here. But I'm seeing people hop on, which is just wonderful. But is there a page 2 already, Teresa?
We're just about there. So far, we have about 16 on the call, and probably about now. So, if you want to turn it to speaker view, that's up in your right-hand corner. That way, when you'll only see Claire and Jerry, you won't see everybody in the Brady Bunch. But if you like the Brady Bunch style, you can leave it on that as well. So that's up at the top in the left-hand corner. It says speaker view. And if you toggle on that, you'll get gallery view or speaker view. And so I am recording the call. I do want everyone to know that, so that you know that you are being recorded. And if you don't want to be seen on video, you can turn off your video. But we are going to record this, and we are going to start sharing these out with everyone. Is that correct, Claire? So if you've registered for this call, you'll receive a copy of the call, if that makes sense. So
yeah, it's one of our brilliant marketing strategies. We're going to start to release what's happening in our Enneagram community so that we can build that community. And then later on, there will be a way for people to actually formally join the community once they realize the great value that is here. So we'll be moving along in that direction. But I just want to say welcome to Midday Cafe. It's great to see some returning people. Wonderful that you're here. Some that we know through the Enneagram Great Lakes and the Integrative Studies seminars that Jerry and Oliver provide for us in the spring and fall every year, which if you've never been a part of that, you're going to have a link where you can check it out. I also see several of my students who now are going to get to meet my beloved teacher. And don't blame him for anything that I do, but give him credit for anything I do that's good.
Don't blame me for anything I do.
And so we welcome Dr. Jerome Wagner, who is a clinical psychologist, a supervisor, a psychotherapist in private practice, a professor in the pastoral studies at Loyola University Chicago. Jerry Wagner is actually one of the people that brought us the Enneagram to the United States, one of the first to learn it in 1971, and did his doctoral dissertation utilizing the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram side by side and how they inform one another. It's actually a wonderful CD set that you can get called The 2 Windows on the Self. And we'll have that link up to Enneagram Spectrum if you're interested in that product. You may have read Dr. Jerome's tome, The 9 Lenses, right? And so that is not for the weak of heart or someone who's just interested in looking at an Enneagram cartoon. You will definitely be expanded in your head, your heart, and your gut with his work. He also wrote an introductory guide called The Enneagram Spectrum of Personality Styles, which is a great way to begin, and wonderful articles for the 9 Points Bulletin and the Enneagram Monthly and the Enneagram Journal, which is our scholarly journal for Enneagram professionals. What you may not know is Dr. Wagner also is hilarious. So he has this wonderful way of reaching into our cognition and helping us understand the Enneagram, but he also has a way of helping us take in our reality through some humor. And so not to put you on the spot, Jerry, but we're hoping for fun. And it's midday. I'd like to attention to is that Dr. Wagner has written a highly researched and statistically validated what's called the WEPS, the Wagner Enneagram Personality Style Scales. And this is something that I have found as a spiritual director and a pastor to be so helpful. I actually, when someone comes to see me in spiritual direction, they take the test first. I get the results, and it gives me a window into their soul. And many of my therapist friends and coaches do the same. Anybody want to wave if that's your story, that you've been using Dr. Wagner's test to help people find their story? Yeah. And so what we know today is that there's a long history with the Enneagram with Dr. Wagner, but he keeps it fresh. And so even this year at the IEA conference, he taught the 4 R's. And so I wondered if he would be willing to share a little bit of that with us today. And can we just say thanks to Jerry for coming and being with us, this wonderful sage. And we welcome you to the Midday Cafe. And thanks to Teresa and Erica for making our dreams come true, because when I sat on the board with Dr. Wagner back several years ago, we were dreaming of an online community. And Erica and Teresa, thank you for making it possible. And Dr. Wagner, thanks for making my dream come true that you are the special guest today.
Well, thank you. Wow. I do want to say, though, that I tell no jokes before 12 o'clock.
Okay.
So I occasionally drink scotch before 12 o'clock, but no humor. So, well, thank you for inviting me. This topic on polarities is one I really like. I think it really, in a way, kind of clarifies a lot about each Enneagram style, and it's just a fun workshop to do. And I think I have an article on my website, but I think you put a link to it, or it was on the email you sent out, kind of describing everything I ever thought about polarities. So this is like a table of contents of what that article had in it. So this is a quick overview. I thought, well, okay, so I can't get past being a 5. So as a 5, you can't just talk about something. You have to put it in the context of everything that's ever been thought about polarities in the history of the world. So Newton talked about polarities. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's how jet engines work. I don't know if that's the 3rd law of psychodynamics. I know Jung liked them, and it's either, I don't know, it's either the 3rd or the 1st or the 2nd, but that's polarities. Hegel liked polarities. You got a thesis, an antithesis, and then a synthesis. So you have like the rational movement in philosophy, followed by the romantic movement, followed by some kind of integration of the two. You got rational mind, feeling mind, and then wise mind, puts the 3 together. And then the Taoism has the yin and the yang. So everything is running into its opposite. So hot is becoming cold, cold is becoming hot. So polarities have been around a long time. And so I thought, well, there's a 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Let's just add another one, and I'll do them. So we got the 4 R's for dealing with your polarity. So you got to recognize it, first of all, which may or may not be easy. Then you have to reframe it, because once you see it, you may not like it. So, become like a 3 and reframe it, make it look a little better. Once you do that, when you see the good that's in your shadow, then you re-own it and then make it part of you, and then you can recycle it. You can use it. So it's not repressed, it's not projected away, but it's something that's now available to you. So one way I do this is have people write down, I even do this with undergraduates, write down a list of statements I am. So if you were going to, write up something for LinkedIn, you're going to send in a resume, you're going to go on match.com, and here's why you would want to go out with me. I am. And so you put down all those positive qualities about yourself. So that would be your self-image. That would be your persona in Jung's description. And Karen Horney, that would be sometimes your idealized self-image. Here's who I think I should be, or if I'm this way, then you'll like me. So it's a kind of an idealized fantasy of yourself. So that's the good news. Then, this is bad news, but if you are this way, I am this way, then I am not that way. So that's kind of the opposite. So if I'm, if you're 2, if I'm nice, I'm not mean. If you're 3, I'm successful, I'm not a failure. 4, I'm special, I'm not ordinary. So if you got time, you don't got time now, but it'll make a list for yourself of qualities. I am not. I've just got a few of them here we might go over. There's a list in that article I wrote that goes on and on and on. I do this as part of my training, and so I've got words that trainees have used over the years, and so it's just an unending list of words for each of the styles. So anyway, let's take a look at the I am not. That would be the shadow in Jung's terms. So it's the opposite of what we want to present to ourselves and other people. I think in Karen Horney's system, the opposite of the idealized self-image would be the despised self. Ooh, this is the self I really don't like. And actually, the despised self is part of our real self, really, but we don't like that part of us. So you can either put it in the basement and repress it and not let it get to your awareness. So each of the types has a defense mechanism to keep their shadow out of the light. Or you can project it. So if it starts to stink in the basement, you throw it out. And so if I'm not this way, who is? It's everybody else. So if you want to find yourself, look around, because we got 9 different receptacles or recycling bins or garbage cans that we can throw our stuff into. And so the problem when you repress it or project it is not available to you. So we don't have it anymore. Other people got our shadow, but we don't have it. So the reframing part is finding at the core of your I am not characteristics, there's something good that got crudded over. It's like the old idea of hamartia, sin. It's missing the mark. So originally, there was something there that hit the mark, or, your arrow was, straight and it hit the target. Your gun barrel was straight. These are macho terms. So originally, there was something on target, something positive there, but it got distorted. It's kind of like my golf game, why I quit. I would hit the ball and I would pull it to the right. It'd be on somebody else's fairway. I would aim for my fairway, but pull it to the left. Then I was on somebody else's fairway. I got to see the golf course that way, but very seldom my own hole. So when you exaggerate your good stuff, it ends up being not so good, not so useful. Another way of thinking about it is a guy by the name of, whose name I can't remember. He's a psychoanalytic author talking about neuroses. And he said at the core of every neurosis is a positive striving. And so the task of psychotherapy is to find out what that was all about. So what's good about being obsessive compulsive? What's good about being anxious? What's good about being depressed? And you immediately would say, nothing I can think of. But there might be something positive there that got exaggerated, got distorted. So I like that. So each of these I am not characteristics, you got to dig into them and see, well, what's good about that? Okay, so then the reowning is, once you've seen something positive, what does my shadow have to offer me? What does my persona have to offer me? So you do a little gestalt dialogue between those different parts of yourself. Here's what I can do for you. Here's what you can bring. And then that resource is available to you, so you can recycle it and use it. Just real quick, I've got just some brief words for each of the types. So like, say if you're a 1, 1s would say things like, I'm good, I'm right. I remember one person saying, oh God, I just did something and I disappeared here. Can you all hear me still?
Yes, we can hear you.
What the hell did I just do? Now it says sign up, it's free.
We can still see and hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I sure can.
You can keep going.
All right, so I'm flying blind here. It's the story of my life. Anyway, this one person I knew said, and I don't know if he was a one or not, but he said, I was born to be right. It's a great description of a one. So twos, I suppose, were born to be helpful. Anyway, so ones are good, right? They're intense, they're serious, they're conscientious. And if you're good, then you're not bad. If you're right, you're not wrong. If you're intense, you're not half-hearted. So you wouldn't go along with Chesterton, who would say anything worth doing is worth doing half well. I really like that. Ones would say, well, if you can't do it right the first time, don't bother doing it. Oh. The only time that really is true is if you're skydiving. You wouldn't want to make a mistake the first time there, but anyway. So if music is good. If you're a bad clarinet player, so what? Play the clarinet. It's worth doing. I'm conscientious, I'm not lax. So then you have to say, well, what's good about being lax? What's good about being half-hearted? What's good about being frivolous? Ones are very serious. I don't know. Maybe frivolous is like the sower who tossed out his seed and it went all over the place, and some things grew, some things didn't. But there's that kind of, generosity or, profligacy, you kind of toss out your good stuff. So twos would be loving. They're not withholding like certain other types. They're helpful. They're not selfish. They're warm. They're not cold. They're kind. They're not mean. They're sensitive. They're not indifferent. So they've got to find what's good about being, let's say, indifferent. I'm just making this up as I go along. And maybe being indifferent is like St. Ignatius says, when it's discerning spirits, be indifferent. Does God want to send you to Hawaii or to, Cleveland? And geez, I hope it's Hawaii, but
me too.
Yeah, but you're kind of open. It's kind of a detachment that the Buddhists like. What's good about being mean? Ooh. Well, I suppose tough love or anger tends to make things kind of very clear and precise. That might be good for twos. So you got to kind of dig around, and underneath all the the crud that's accrued, what's good about the core of those characteristics? I'll just skip ahead like to a 9. So 9s think of themselves as being settled. They're not upset. They don't like to upset people. They're comfortable. They don't like to be conflicted. Like 9s would say, I see no good that can possibly come from conflict. Well, maybe there is something good about that. They're patient. They don't like to be pushy like their neighbors. They're ecumenical. Everybody is welcome. It's the pantheon. All gods are welcome here. They're not bigoted. They're not exclusive. They really don't like, they're very inclusive. Diplomatic, they're not troublesome. So, what's good about being troublesome? Well, a lot of women are being troublesome these days, and good for, it's about time.
Yes.
Or, the teenagers down in Florida are causing trouble. Hey, adults, stop killing us. What are you going to do about this? So, and the hard one, I suppose, is conflict. What good can come from conflict? So Erickson would say, well, in conflict, people open up, you grow, you got options. So you got to kind of look around so that you can bring that part of you back into yourself and not be so embarrassed, ashamed of that part of you. So, I'm just looking at the 4s here. They like to be original, not ordinary, but one of them is they're deep, and being shallow is, oh my God, what good could possibly come from being shallow? So you have to think about that. It's easier to move around, I suppose, in shallow water. If you're in deep water, you're kind of sluggish down there. But anyway, so okay, so it's really getting in touch with all the different parts of ourselves and integrating them, and so then we got a lot more energy. And when you're not projecting those things out, you're not creating a split within yourself. There's the Jekyll and the Hyde. There's the good me and the bad me, but there's me. I am a little good and bad. That's part of, actually, I'm not embarrassed to say this, but Wonder Woman, the movie, classic conflict between good and evil, Wonder Woman and Mars, and human beings, well, are we good or are we bad? And at the end, she kind of said, well, human beings are a little bit of both. Very existential position. So it's kind of coming to terms with all the different parts in our self, in our family. How are we doing on time here? My God, I'm doing pretty good.
You are great. You skipped the 3.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a terrible mistake. Well, 3s would like to be successful. They don't want to be failures. They want to be popular. They don't want to be, wallflowers. They want to be efficient, not inefficient. They're ambitious. They're not drifting. I'm smiling because I remember someone who was a 9, actually, who said, I have almost no ambition in me. It's great. I'd be happy to, kind of be a secretary somewhere in the middle of Kansas, and that'd be fine. I don't think you would find many 3s saying that. I want to use all my talents and, get them out from under the bushel, and here I am. I'm going to shine. So I suppose that's another thing. I shine. I'm not dull. 3s would probably say that. So what would be good about, oh man, what's good about being a failure? Yikes. Well, it helps you be like everybody else. You kind of, it takes the pressure off. You don't have to bowl the perfect game anymore. It's like, I don't have to keep creating this image now. Oh my, I can just be myself. Wow, it's great. What's good about being inefficient? I don't know. Can you think of anything, Claire?
I was hoping you could tell me. I'm
yeah. What's good about being inefficient? Well, I suppose it's more relaxed. It's I don't know if it would be like that kind of time when the Holy Spirit is brooding over the waters, and nothing too much is happening, but it's a creative time. You're trying different things. It might look like it's inefficient, but actually you're, exploring different ways of doing things, or so there could be something creative in being inefficient. If you're efficient, it does kind of narrow things down in a way. Like there's only one way to be efficient or whatever, but there's thousands of ways to be inefficient. Let me count the ways.
And inefficient, even when you think about a relational, your relational world, if
yes,
you're honest,
yes,
relationships are inefficient. And
yes, that's right.
So, learning to be present, you let go of efficiency.
Exactly. That's right. You kind of waste time with your friends. That's right. I'm aware that I also, of course, skipped over the 5. So we want to be wise, and we don't want to look foolish. That's the worst thing. Oh, did that? Well, no. Or you're feeling angry or sad or embarrassed. Oh, wow, that looks pretty dumb. So keep those feelings to yourself. I think we would identify ourselves as being quiet, not chatty. I got to get this book. It's called Quiet. How to how to be an introvert in a world that won't stop talking. It's a great book title. So fives tend to be kind of quiet. Don't speak unless you can improve upon silence. We tend to be, I think, probably frugal, stingy, withholding, and so we don't like to be too extravagant or too generous. But I think it was Milton who said, good, the more shared, the more abundant grows. So it's kind of getting a different idea. Well, if I give away what I have, I'll have less. As opposed to if I give away what I have, I'll have more. I still don't believe that, but it seems like a nice idea. All right. Well, so so I do a much more of this in my training. Let me just mention that a little bit. I'm doing 2 of them this summer. One of them here in Chicago, or Skokie actually, June 25 to 29. So it's 5 days, 9 to 5. And so it's training people to be able to give basic Enneagram workshops, to work with people one-on-one, work with teams. I have an advanced training I do about every other year, so I'm not doing it this summer. I'm a psychologist, so there's a good psychological, I'd say, grounding in the way I present the Enneagram. As along with the spiritual. Claire, I think you do probably more with the spiritual than I do, so they're kind of a nice complementary approaches. I'm doing one in Cincinnati right before the IEA conference there, and that's July 14 to 18. It's at the Westin, which is right across from Fountain Square in Cincinnati, and right across from Grader's Ice Cream, which have the best ice cream in the Midwest. So I'll be there a lot, I'm afraid. Anyway, so I think Teresa has a link for that training. Let me also mention, because this is going to be amazing, that we do every 2 times a year. There's a workshop that First Analysis Institute sponsors. And so I think, what is it this year? It costs $175. It's Russ Hudson and Tom Condon. And there's no way in the world that you're going to see these 2 guys for $175 for 2 days. Even I am looking forward to this. Russ is really hard to pin down. He's flying around the world. And I know Russ and Tom have done this workshop a couple of times. They're cooking up some new stuff for this one, and they're wonderful presenters. So the 2 of them together is a like tag team match. Tom is going to do the horizontal methods of change. So it's looking at more. Tom is an NLP master practitioner. He uses that a lot, and so it's developing skills for living, skills for solving problems. And NLP kind of looks at how we process things, and it has some methods, some techniques for changing the way we process things. This is a completely random thought, but I was supervising some clinical students, and one of them said when she applied for an externship or an internship, they asked her, do you think psychotherapy is magic? And probably the politically correct answer would be, oh, why no, we use only evidence-based practices. It's like it's very scientific. On the other hand, I think psychotherapy is magic. And there's a book by NLP folks called Practical Magic. So when you look at master practitioners, you say, my God, where did that come from? How did you do that? So people like Minuchin in family therapy, Fritz Perls, the hypnotist oh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, there is something magical, and so NLP or Tom's approach analyzes that and says, here's you can do that too. Here's what they're up to. So, and then Russ is going to do more the vertical dimension, so that there's more to us than our persona. There's more to us than our self-concept. So, kind of so Russ would be teaching presence practices and kind of how to get in touch with our essence, which is we're more than we think we are. So Russ has experience in the Gurdjieff tradition, and luckily I'm going to insult Gurdjieffians now, but he says it in a way that you can understand. So it's going to be a great, it's like the cross, you get the vertical and the horizontal dimensions. So that's April 7 and 8. I get no commission for plugging this, but it should be really good. It's going to be at Loyola in the McCormick Lounge. It's a nice room.
Yeah.
Jerry, I know you may not be able to see us, but in the chat, for those of everyone on the call, in the chat, if you, for those of you on the call, if you go down to the bottom and press on the chat speech bubble, you'll be able to see all those links. Erica's been posting them there. And then we'll send those out to you with the video when we send you this recording so that you can see all those links as well. But just so you know, many things that Jerry's mentioning, we're putting in that chat box over to the side for you as well. So Claire?
Great.
Yeah, so you did a great job advertising there, Jerry. I did not expect to get that from you today. I'm really happy to hear about it. Because I was going to say, I was going to say not anywhere near as much as you did. So that's fantastic.
See, I'm practicing being a 3. I'm going to see what marketing is all about.
That's right. Well, you are a competency type, according to Ginger. So,
oh, okay.
you remember that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So here's one of the things that I want to make everyone aware of is that Tom Condon will be with us at the Midday Cafe next month and give us a little bit of just a little snapshot of what's going to happen with horizontal and vertical change. And so we're really looking forward to that. And then, one of the things I wanted to say to the folks here is that I did your basic training twice. And remember that? I was one of your students.
It's because you didn't get my jokes, and so I asked you, well, you may come back and see if you can get them the second time. Yeah.
Right? And so I would really encourage people to take a look at that training. It is a wonderful, not just a ground level place, but a really deep dive into the work of the Enneagram. And so these trainings, you've done them in Toronto and Australia and Hong Kong and Singapore. And what I'm wondering, Jerry, is how you see polarities and this reframe and reown and recycle, how you see that crossing the cultural lines. Maybe you could answer that question, and maybe a couple other folks have questions too. But how is this kind of teaching working in other countries, other cultures?
Good question. I haven't thought about the polarity so much, but just the Enneagram in general, as I've been amazed that people get it. There are 9 types in China. There are 9 types in Singapore and India. I've had students from Africa. They said, "Oh yeah, we got all those nine types here." Like it's kind of a universe. It goes below gender. It goes below ethnicity and races. And, it's like we've got more in common as an Enneagram type with some fellow 1s and 2s and 3s, and then different skin color or different gender. Even the polarities, I mean, they get it. Maybe cultures would favor certain self-images, being either efficient or either, extroverted or introverted. And so the particular shadow would be more unacceptable in certain cultures. But that hasn't really come up. Let me think of where. So I've done some trainings, but it's mostly in like Australia. But so those would be all kind of European. The big differences I think would be in Asia, China, Singapore. But it's held up there. So yeah.
Let's even drop the plow a little bit deeper, since we're in this moment of Me Too and this time in history. Tell us how gender shows up, and when we're looking at polarities where there have been these things that this is not me, is that more gender? Let's see, how does gender help or hurt this conversation?
Good question. When I did my test, the Enneagram test, I looked to see if I needed separate norms for males and females, which sometimes you do in tests, or you might need separate norms for younger participants, and teenagers, adults. I didn't find a difference in, let's say, the mean scores on the different Enneagram scales between men and women. So I didn't really need two separate scoring systems. It might show up. I don't know. I mean, I suppose our culture would favor 2s for women and not so much 8s. And yet there are male 2s, there are women 8s. And the dynamics are pretty similar for men and women, I've found. I don't know what your experience has been, but, like with 8s, the issues and the vulnerabilities for men and women are very similar. And men who are 2s, have the same kind of issues and reluctance to be too needy, and their job on earth is to be helpful and supportive. So and I think for 3s, male 3s and female 3s, similar kind of issues. I don't know be curious to see what other people, unfortunately I can't see you. I don't know what the hell I did with my computer screen, but if other people have what they think about gender differences, if they've noticed the difference or not.
And I would actually love to see a study done where we notice who the types that came forward first to say Me Too, or in the Nasser case, which types came forward and so opened the gateway. I think that would be an interesting thing to note.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what type Nasser is? What type is Nasser, do you think?
I've never thought about that. An immature type, whichever one that would be. I don't know. What comes to mind, and I'm hesitant to say it, is kind of a 5 type, because he's not really having healthy relationships. It's more, although it's not, well, maybe it's voyeur, kind of watching and not really engaging. But it's kind of it's an early kind of sexuality. It's not a very mature, obviously, sexuality that he has. So whatever he is, he's a young style. Yeah.
Someone's asking if you'll go back to the 4 R's and pick back up with the 6s.
Oh, okay.
And the 7.
6s and the 7s. Happy to do it. Okay. So 6s, I call, so it's kind of wanting to be loyal and do what you say you're going to do. So be faithful. Sixes and ones have a lot in common. They're responsible, prudent, one of the more boring virtues, but I think sixes are prudent. They're questioning, challenging. That's the devil's advocate. Trying to think, I was just talking to somebody recently who just does that a lot. Does it just, challenging. Oh, is that so? Is that right? Then whoever he challenges gets pissed off. Oh, you don't trust me. You don't believe me. You never, believe what I say, because his job is to kind of question and challenge. Well, let's look at different points of view here. So the opposite, if you push being loyal too far, I kind of do this in the training. So if you push being a one wants to be good, push that too far, you get the perfectionist. Two wants to be helpful, you push that too far, you got somebody who's codependent. Three, you push being successful and my worth depends on what I do, you get the workaholic. Four wants to be special, deep feeling. I suppose you get a little bit of the melancholy. So the push melancholy too far, you get depression. Fives are we're withdrawn, so you push that too far, get too far away from your feelings, you get the schizoid style. Sixes, if you push loyalty too far, then you create enemies. And so it's good to be loyal, but if you push it too far, you become the fanatic, either religious or otherwise. But it's like, if you're on my side, you're good. If you're on the other side, you're bad. If you believe something other than I believe, I have to either convert you or kill you because you're threatening my belief line. Just like, well, we can't mix bloodlines, so we can't mix belief lines either. So that kind of narrows down who God is. But so sixes don't want to be a traitor. They don't want to. They do not like to be betrayed, and they don't want to betray other people. So then you have to say, well, what's good about being a traitor? And you get the conscientious objector, someone who says, well, the rules of this culture or this society are just not fair. They're not right. And so I got to challenge them. Looks like you're being a traitor, or what? If the Democrats who didn't applaud for Trump, what the hell did he call them? Were they traitors? I forget now. So anyway, if you don't like what I have to say, you're bad. So sevens, not so much of a worry space because they run up ahead of their fears. So they want to be positive, not negative. It's a playful space. And my daughter, who is downstairs, I tell this in the trainings. When she was little, her mom sent her to her room and said, clean up your room. So there's just this mound of toys in there, which is perfect for a seven. And she would be the princess sitting on top of this mound of toys, ruling her kingdom or queendom. And anyway, she trudges up the stairs, and halfway up, she turns around and says to her mom, Mom, I don't have time to clean up my room. I was born to play. Oh. If that's not a great description of a seven, I don't know what is. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, why are you doing it? So sevens, they want to be light. They don't want to be dull. They want to be entertaining, not boring. So I think a seven would say, if I'm boring, just shoot me, Or I've never found a seven who has found anything good about being bored. It's just awful for them. So we'll have to ask other types, what's good about being bored? Doing the same thing. Maybe it would be more on the Myers-Briggs, the sensing style. Well, you got a gift, so keep practicing it. Do it better. As opposed to intuitive, well, I did it once. Now let's do something else. So sevens, it's that song, you know, be the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of things. They don't want to get pulled down. What else did I leave out? I left out the 8s.
Yes.
Yeah. So 8s need to be, in order to survive, you got to be strong, kind of the survival of the fittest. Self-sufficient. It's really not good to be dependent on others. Very tough. It's important to be strong, tough, direct. I remember an 8 saying, my job is to tell the truth. That's what I'm here for. It's a great description of an 8. I remember another person who was a 1. She's a consultant. She goes into a business and said, my job is to fix things. So I'm going to fix this operation. So it's, you know, I don't know what would 6s say? My job is to make things safe, I suppose. And 7s, my job is to make life more enjoyable, you know. Anyway, so 8s are gonna tell it like it is. So if you're tough, it's not okay to be soft. It's not okay to be needy if you're self-sufficient. If you're strong, you can't be weak. I remember another person saying, in business, never show weakness. So you got to never have any chinks in your armor. It's really hard to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. So 8s would need to say, well, what's good about being vulnerable? Is there anything good that can come from that? And I suppose, yeah, relationships can come from that, you know. Yeah. Did I do? Yeah, I did the 9s. I did all of them now. Very good.
You got it all. In fact, right now people are actually typing in their numbers. We have 6,
Excellent.
9, 3, 2, 6, 8, 9, 8.
Wow. Cool.
Another 6, a 1. The 5s are hiding.
Yeah.
Another 8. Yeah, and this 8, Catherine says, I'm an 8 and my job is to tell the truth.
Yes, that's right. That's it.
We have a 4, 2. Oh, yes, we've got a 5 admitting to it. Thank you.
Excellent. Coming out of the shadows, yes.
Awesome. Yeah. And do any of you feel like you have a burning question you'd love to ask Jerry before our time is?
This is killing me that I can't see anybody. If I click on, I don't want to get out of here. If I click on link and video, do you think that'll hook me up? Or maybe I better just not, I'll just not see anybody.
We can see you and we can hear you very well, Jerry. So I apologize.
Wait a minute. This is not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, I see you, but you don't see me. What the heck? Wait a minute.
It's a moment right here.
It's a trick on a 5 right now.
Oh. All right. Give me a question.
Jerry, this is Diana Otterbacher.
Yes, hi Diana.
Glad to see you again. I'm one of your biggest fans.
Well, yes, I'm sorry I can't see you again.
You're not missing anything.
Oh, I don't know about that. All right.
You started to give a list of the type of the extremes. For instance, a cyclical fanatic, and the worst thing for a 7 would be I don't know how a 7 could go boring, but what would a 7, 8, and 9? What would be their extreme if they took it too far?
Good point. Yeah, I kind of left off with the 5s would schizoid, 6s would be paranoid. Oh, you know, paranoid. You push being suspicious and cautious too far, you get paranoid.
Okay.
7s, I don't know if maybe manic on the bipolar side.
Okay.
So it certainly is the Pollyannish and, you know, not willing to see any bad in anything. I've used the example, but I don't know if it quite works. For the 5, 6, and 7, so you got the head types, 3 kinds of schizophrenia. There's the catatonic, which would be the 5. You go in your cave and you just freeze until you feel safe enough to come out. So you just kind of, you're there, you're perfectly aware of what's going on, but you don't move, you don't do anything. So it's kind of a frozen space. 6s would become the paranoid schizophrenic. 7s, there was an old category. I don't think they use it anymore. It's called hebephrenic schizophrenic. And the hebephrenic schizophrenic, I shouldn't laugh at this, but would be kind of sit in the corner and just giggle. So they would spend their whole time giggling, which strikes me as being the extreme form of a 7. Let's not be sad. Let's just giggle our way through life. 8s would be the sociopath, psychopath, kind of no conscience or a very light conscience. And a sucker is born every minute, so taking advantage of people, hurting them. And the 9s would be, let's think, passive aggressive. I've seen some people say obsessive compulsive, but I don't see that too much. So maybe just the passive or passive aggressive personality style.
So would you use your defense mechanism there of narcotization, Jerry, to describe maybe addiction?
That's right. Yeah. So the defense mechanism, glad you brought that up, it kind of goes in between the I am and the I am not. So the defense mechanism is a buffer to keep those unacceptable things out of your consciousness. So like with a 9, if they don't want to be upset or conflicted or pushy or bigoted, troublesome, anger is in every one of those characteristics. So they give away their anger or sit on it. But narcotization, which would be numbing yourself out, numbing out it's really the anger in you, any part of you that would be irritable or irritating. So you want to kind of shoot a little psychic Novocaine into your psyche and numb that part of you out. But then the problem is if you project your anger out, then you're surrounded by a bunch of hot-headeds, bozos, and your job then is to calm them down. So you've taken all of your assertive, aggressive energy and projected it out. And so now you got to calm people down, or narcotize them.
Thank you, Jerry. And I got one more thing. Did I miss that, or did you talk about recycling, the 4th R?
Yeah, no, I just talked about that briefly. So once you're able to kind of re-own and reintegrate, which would be another way of putting that 3rd one, reintegrate those different parts of you, then you can use them. You can recycle them. I was desperate for the 4th R, so recycle came to mind, which seems to be like a good thing. You can, now you got that part of you that you can use, because before it was either locked away in the basement or you threw it out, you didn't have it, but now it's back in and it's back a part of you.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, give me a break there. I'm desperate to get these 4 R's in. So recycle.
Yeah. Somebody gave you a 5th one, Jerry. They called it retirement.
Yeah, now you're talking. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm resisting that.
We want to say thank you, Jerry. We're actually we're at the end of our time together, and
okay.
We want to remind people that Jerry has 2 trainings coming up this summer in Chicago and in Cincinnati. You have the link there in your chat box. And then also that we have Midday Cafe next month with Tom Condon.
Don't miss it.
Don't miss that, right? March 21st. And then, of course, Tom Condon and Russ Hudson will be with us in April, and April 7th and 8th. And so the link is there for you to sign up. We're really happy you all joined us today, and we will actually make this video available for you to share with your Enneagram friends so that we can continue to build the community and continue to strengthen the competencies of those of us who teach the Enneagram. So thank you, Jerry. Let's say thanks to our beloved professor.
Yes. Thank you all for, I'm sorry I can't see you, whatever I did here, but it's nice hearing you again.
Yes, you're getting a standing ovation right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. right. All right. So cheers to everyone with your coffee or your tea. And this is our closing toast. Here's to you, as good as you are. And here's to me, as bad as I am. But as good as you are and as bad as I am, I'm as good as you are, as bad as I am. Salute.
Cheers.
Nice. Very nice.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for being on the call. Make sure you register for our March call as well. So you just hit end meeting or leave meeting, and you'll be able to go out of the meeting. So
great.
Jerry, don't go anywhere.
No, I'm going to see if I can get into, what the hell, join the meeting in progress.
There, try that.
I'm clicking it.
You're already in, so I don't think.
I got to click on I'm not a robot. Now I can do it.
Yeah, I think you're already in, so I don't think you're going to come in again.
Now, here we are. Now I can see you all.
There you go.
Well, I just was chicken. I didn't want to just, disconnect. But here I am.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you didn't.
There you are.
They might have lost you. So.
That was a great
Yeah.